Well, hello model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Rao. And here we're working on my Dodge MS4 Turbo Interceptor. This is the Wraith car. And if you've been following along, I've done a lot of sanding on this thing, and it's all it pretty much is. It's one block 3D printed kit, and it literally is, well, it's actually two blocks and you glue it together, which is where you can still see some of the seam, especially right here, where I had glued it together. But this thing was very rough with a lot of texture. And I've done multiple rounds of priming and sanding and smoothing out, and I'm still doing that, but hopefully by the end of this video I'll be putting some actual paint on it. But I'm just updating you on where I'm at and what I'm doing. But I've put some putty on it before and smoothed out a lot of the seams and fine-tuning some. So now I've pretty much roughed in the shape in primer, and I'm just now fine-tuning it. I've got it pretty smoothed out and just taking care of. But I started using some of the brush paint primer and just dabbing it and brushing it in certain areas. But I'm definitely doing that in the seams, because in the seams this is a honeycomb texture and there were holes, and I would fill in with super glue and I was trying to level them out, but the paint seems to flow better as far as leveling them out. So I get the paint in there, level it out, sand it, but right now that's all I'm doing is building paint up and getting it in there. So, and then fine-tuning in some of these other areas. And also I've taken some super glue and filling in all the minor holes, doing it that way, and some of the bigger ones that are in the wheel openings are a little harder to get. There's a whole bunch that were back here that I really use the super glue to get to, and then some up here. There's a big hole right there, but put some putty in there. Even though the wheel kind of hides it, I'm just trying to get it all smooth, and there's a big old gape right there. And I'm just working it, filled in a couple holes right here. And I started sanding and shaping the windows and smoothing them out. Just trying to get those where I'm happy with those. So there's going to be still a lot more sanding to go, and smoothing out the emblem in the front. But got all the texture pretty much off the front, squaring up the lines and smoothing them out. And got to work on the lights and some of the other stuff up here. But just fine-tuning the bodywork of the shape on this. So there's going to be a lot more up there, but here's a little update, and I'll build them together so there'll be multiple updates. You can see progress on this. So hopefully by the end of this video I'll have some paint on it, but I know it's been a while since you guys seen any updates on it. So I'm going to keep working on this, and we're going to get this thing moving, and you'll see some more on it, but not a whole lot of updates to show you. Well, I've gotten a bit more done to this, as you can see. Another layer of primer and sanding, of course, and really happy with the way this is coming out. Got it pretty smoothed out, a lot of the areas taken care of. Back half is really nice. I'm pretty happy with all of that, and got a nice little fingerprint here in the primer. But you know, this isn't my last layer of primer, so I've got some more to do. But bottom side's really nice. You can see where I got the super glue and filling it in. It's all coming out pretty nice. Still got a little bit of work to do, but pretty happy with it. Got this pretty much filled in, a lot of it filled in, and then been doing a lot of work to the nose. Started to fill this in because that's turn signal amber, but it's got to have the lens that goes over it. So I got that, and I filled in this also. And I started studying photos of the movie car from the scene. And this is kind of recessed, it doesn't bulge out just like this does. So I filled all of that also with the Tamiya epoxy putty. So filled all that in, got in there, it's hardened now. And I also started to work on the 4 headlights. And I grabbed some headlight lenses out of 87 Buick Grand National kit that I have as a spare kit or parts kit. So I grabbed some lights out of that, and they're a little tall, so I started to thin them down and get them fitted, but they're not fitted yet. And I wasn't too worried about those holes because I can glue the lenses right on top of them. And then it's got another lens that goes on top of it that should be smoked. Been working on this a little bit. You can see I kind of slipped and goofed up, so I need to put some more putty in there and clean that and straighten that out a little bit more. So I got some work to do. But I've been smoothing out the windows, getting all those done. But now I need to kind of add, and I was studying the car. The window actually goes into the roof just a little bit and comes back down. So I think I got to add some strip styrene to do that. And also it should have little windows on the sides here that are very faint. But you can see them in some of the real cars and some of the shots. It's funny because they had multiple cars. So some shots have completely smooth windows that don't have a roll-up down section, and some do. So some of them are the actual car that they had, which the windows rolled down. And then some of the cars were just their fiberglass shells, and the windows don't. So seeing some differences there. Plus it seems like it has a little bit of a shelf scoop right here to draw an air into the engine compartment, which the model kit doesn't have. Not sure I'm going to duplicate that or not. And another thing I noticed carefully is I've got two seams here, one for the door, one for the hood. But in the car, there's only one, or the hood and the front piece, because it's really not where the engine is. The front piece and the door meet together, and there's only one seam, not two. So I'm going to have to fill one of those in to make it a little bit better. But there's just some inaccuracies, but still trying to make it better. But I'm getting there. But just another round of primer and sanding, but starting to fine tune and tweak some of these areas, and it's coming along nice. And I really like this Tamiya epoxy putty. That's this stuff right here. It's a two-part epoxy putty. I know I've shown this stuff before, but it's really not available in the United States. I've had to get this shipped in from Japan, and I usually buy a couple of boxes, but they last a long time because it's two parts. There's part A, part B. Cut a little bit, mix it together. There's the instructions that I can't read. And there's part B. So just cut a small section of each part, mix it together, and then let it harden. And it's really good stuff, especially when it comes to shaping and making stuff like this. And you can shape it and let it harden, and then sand it if you need to. But that isn't sanded. That's just me shaping it and getting it in there and pushing it and then letting it harden. It's all hardened now. And it takes primer just fine. So it's pretty good stuff. You can use pretty much any kind of putty or to do that, but that's what I used. And it's coming along great. There'll be more updates to this video. Trying to get paint on it by the end of this video. So I know it's been a while and I keep going back and forth to it, but not a whole lot to show, but a whole lot of work going into it. Just real quick, just mentioned it before that I was going to need to fill the seam in and fill this and kind of touch it up a little bit. So I used the polyester putty to fill this, and I used the epoxy putty here. Just a couple of different applications, mainly because I was shoving this into a crack and shaping it as it is before I did any work to it. So I like the epoxy putty for that. But when I'm sanding it flush and smooth and getting it real nice, I kind of like to use the polyester putty. So like I said, put it on there. Use the toothpick to push it and move it around to clear the emblem. Try and make it a little bit better because I had some areas where I slipped and messed up. So I'll sand that and then fill it in the seam here. And the easiest way to prevent it to get anywhere else is I put a piece of masking tape this way and a piece of masking tape over this one so that it didn't get into that seam but into the other seam. And then before it hardened, I pulled it off and gave me the nice sharp edge and let it sit there, and I'll sand it smooth and it'll disappear. So since I showed the other product, here's this one, the Tamiya polyester putty, and it cracks me up there. $175? No, that's not what it was. But I don't remember. It's actually been a few years since I bought this stuff, but I buy a few at a time, and it kind of lasts, but this stuff will dry out. So I don't use this stuff a whole lot, but this, the hardener will dry out. And I've had that problem. So, but they will sell that separately, but it's almost as much money as buying a whole nother tube. But same thing, have to order this outside of the US, it seems like. But since I showed you the other one, I'm showing you what I'm using on this one. And I get another round of sanding going, and stick around, we'll see how this continues to progress. Well, I'm trying to get this ready for paint, but here it is at the moment, just getting you caught up here. Filled this in, so that's all sanded. And, some more work to the front. That's after sanding and smoothing it all out. So I'll get another layer of primer on here. Hopefully it'll be my last. But as you can see, it's coming along. I also glued these on the bottom of the rockers here and fitted them. They just kind of extend this a little bit on the real car. And then there's nothing back here. But just getting Getting her cleaned up. Just lots more sanding, even on the bottom side. Right here. And then fingerprints and just a little bit more sanding. I'll sand some of this glue off of here. Even though this is the bottom side, you're really not going to see this thing, and I'm not going to be flipping it over. But it's just coming along. And I started to carve the, some more channels for the window, trying to make it look a little bit better and more pronounced. I'll sand them off. And I'm trying to decide if I want to put the windows, the roll down windows right here or not. Because in some scenes you see them, the actual car does, but a lot of the ones that they used for the movie didn't. And then same thing, there are no mirrors. Most of the time you don't see mirrors on the car either. And they don't provide mirrors. And I think I'm just going to, I haven't decided if I'm going to leave them on or leave them off or put them on, because, which one do I make this more accurate to? The more I look, study the photos and everything, the actual car or the replicas that they used. Most of the screenshot cars are the replicas. But she's coming along. I was hoping to have paint on this by the time I got to this point. And I was carving some of this too. But I put some more primer on it and do a few more things to it. But I'm going to just complete this video at this point and keep working on this, of course, and smoothing it out and getting it all done. It's very smooth now. I'm really happy with the way it's coming out. But I've still got some more work to do and some more priming. And we'll keep going on this. So there'll be another update on this. I know it's slow coming, but that's just, this one is just a lot of body work. I'm just doing a lot of it. And just trying to tweak it and fine-tune it to my liking. So thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments. I really appreciate it. And you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Saturday.